Hello students, so this is the notes on lesson 8-2, graphing quadratics in standard and vertex form. So our first example is we have to graph y equals x plus 1 quantity squared plus 5. So this is an equation in vertex form, and vertex form is in this form right here. Y equals a x minus h squared plus k. All right, so these two numbers here, h and k, that's the vertex. So the vertex would be h comma k. So whatever number these two are, that's going to be the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So be careful. The x coordinate is always going to be the opposite sign because you see minus here. So it's going to be a positive here. If it was a positive here, it would be a negative here. So it's going to be the opposite sign. All right, so let's go ahead and find the vertex of this equation here. So this would be our h here, and then this would be our k. So if we look at, if we compare it to our vertex form here, the vertex of this example is going to be, so here we have a minus h here, and our h is positive. So our h here is positive, so it's going to be a negative here for the x coordinate. And then the k, it's going to be the same sign. So this is the vertex here. So back in 8-1, to graph a quadratic, we did a table starting from -2 all the way to +2. So I'm going to make a table here. Excuse me. All right, so here, let's make our table. But in 8-1, we started with -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. In 8-2, we have the vertex. This is the middle point here. So our x coordinate is -1, our y coordinate is 5. So in the middle here, I'm going to put -1 and 5. That is the middle of our parabola. So here we're going to pick two values either above and below this number here. So I'm going to do -2 and then -3. And on the other side of -1, so it'd be 0 and 1. So what I have to do is I'm just going to plug in these two numbers and these two numbers into our equation here. So let's go ahead and do that. So it'd be -3 plus 1 squared plus 5, -2 plus 1 squared plus 5. And I know that these two is going to be the same numbers as these here because it's a mere reflection of one side. So I only need to solve for two of them, and the other side should be the same. So here, -3 plus 1, that's -2. -2 squared, -2 times -2 is 4, and 4 plus 5 is 9. So it's going to be 9 there, and I know it's going to be 9 here. So for -2, -2 plus 1 is -1, -1 squared is 1, 1 plus 5 is 6. So it's going to be 6 here and 6 there. And we just have to plug these 5 points into our graph, and then we'll be able to graph this parabola here. So if I were to sketch the graph, it would mostly look like this. So our vertex is -1, 5. -1, 5 would be somewhere right here, and then it would go up like this. So that's what our parabola would roughly look like. All right, let's move on to the second example. So let's say we have an equation like this. So So this is an equation in standard form. Standard form is in this form right here. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So you guys already seen this in chapter 7 with polynomials. It's going to be in that form. It's going to be some number x squared, and then the next term is some number just x, and then the last number is just a constant. It's just a number. And that's what we have over here. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So the vertex, x coordinate of the vertex is going to be is negative b over 2a. So the x coordinate of the vertex is going to be the negative b value over 2 times the a value. So that's how we find the middle point of our table here. So let's go ahead and do that. Negative b over 2a. Well, this is a and then this is b here. So it's going to be negative 6 over 2a. So 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6 over negative 6, which is just 1. So that's going to be our middle point right here, the x coordinate of our vertex. So let's go ahead and create our table. So we have our table here. So we're going to use 1. That's going to be our middle point. 1 right here. And we're going to pick 2 values below it and 2 values above it. So I'm going to pick 0, negative 1, and then 2 and 3. So those are the 2 values that are on both sides of our vertex. So here, we're not given a y coordinate, so we're going to have to plug 1 into our equation to find our y coordinate of our vertex. So let's go ahead and do that. Negative 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 plus 4. So 1 squared, that's 1. Negative 3 times 1, that's negative 3. Plus 6 plus 4. So negative 3 plus 6 is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. So our answer is going to be 7 here. And we're going to have to do the same for these 2 values. And then these 2 below it should mirror these 2 numbers here. So negative 3 times negative 1 squared plus 6 times negative 1 plus 4. So negative 1 squared, that's 1. 1 times negative 3, that's negative 3. Negative 3 minus 6 here, that's negative 9. Negative 9 plus 4 is negative 5. So that's negative 5 right there. This should be negative 5 as well. So let's plug in 0. So 0 squared is 0. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. Plus 6 times 0 is 0. So this is 0 plus 4. That's just going to be a positive 4 here and a positive 4. So now that we have our table, we can just plug it into a graph or plug it into your homework, and then you should get the graph from there. Lastly, last problem. So in our last example, we have to find the x-intercept. And there might be more than one, so x-intercepts. Our example is y equals x squared minus 8x plus 12. So the first thing we want to do is we want to actually try to understand what we're doing. So in order to find the x-intercept of any equation, we know that the y coordinate of all the x-intercepts is going to be 0. So we want to set y to 0. So I'm on a graph here. Where it crosses this line here, the y coordinate is always going to be 0, right? So if we have a x-intercept there, it's going to be some x coordinate, and the y coordinate is always going to be 0. So that's why we set y equal to 0. So let's go ahead and do that. 0 equals x squared minus 8x plus 12. So we have to refer back to chapter 7, factoring. So this is a polynomial here, and we can factor this. We have to find two numbers that will multiply up to this, and then also add up to this. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to make a table here. So 12. The factors of 12 are 6, 2, negative 6, negative 2, 3, 4, negative 3, negative 4. I can use 12 and 1 too, but I know that's not going to work because 12 plus 1 is not anywhere near negative 8. So let's see which one of these adds up to negative 8. 6 plus 2 is 8. Negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8. So we found our matching pair here. So the factor form of this would be x minus 6, x minus 2, and that's still all equal to 0. All right, so in order to solve this, we have to set each one of these equal to 0, because if one of these things equals 0, it doesn't matter what the other value is. 0 times anything is 0. The same thing as if this is equal to 0, it doesn't matter what this one is. 0 times anything is 0. So let's go ahead and do that. So you have 0 equals x minus 6, and then 0 equals x minus 2. So we just have to solve for x for both of these equations here. So I'm going to add 6 here, add 6. So 6 equals x over here, plus 2, plus 2. So 2 equals x. So we found our two intercepts here. So it's going to be 6 is one intercept, 2 is the other. So that's what you're going to plug in as the answer on your online homework. So that's it for lesson 8-2. I hope this helps. If you have any question, just make sure to send me an email or leave a comment or post on Google Classroom. And good luck on your homework.